on you.
Oh.
I guess it's on time.
Let me double check.
Are you recording? I got 8:59 by the way.
Wait a minute.
Are we recording?
I retract
Are you getting ready to
5
start?
and 6, 5, 4.
And I stole your pen yesterday.
Smile.
Okay.
Hi, Southern Colorado.
Okay.
Live
Okay.
from.
Good.
I think so.
The Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. Let the record show it is 9 a.m. on July 6th, 2018. Ms. Jackie, would you lead us in the pledge this morning, please? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning.
Brenda, can I borrow?
Yeah, let's take a breath, huh? Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Kanda.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And clerk to the board, Kelly Camper, present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Audience introductions.
Jackie Bubas for the Sentinel.
Bob Jolly, Airport.
Thank you. Nice to have you guys here. Good point. Let me silence mine as well.
I thought I had done that.
We do not have any minutes to approve that I'm aware of.
Nope.
We will move on to commissioner items. Commissioner Prince, would you care to start?
No amendments.
Amendments to the agenda, sorry. Well, I blew by that, didn't I?
Flew right through there.
Yeah, well,
He's done.
I'm still of the opinion that that shouldn't even be there, but hey, if we wanted to change the order, we could do that under amendments, or if we wanted to delete something, I guess we could do that as well. So any amendments to the agenda, gentlemen?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, nor do I. Commissioner items? Commissioner Prince, anything?
I can report on my meeting yesterday. Or
Good, yeah, I would like to hear about that, yes.
This was a 4-county meeting we had in Chaffee County. It was Lake, Fremont, Chaffee, and Custer. And the entire issue was the DA's budget. Our budget last year was, I believe we have in the budget $11,700 and some odd dollars that we paid to the district attorney, Molly. And the 4 counties all feel that we would like some transparency, some accountability. Where is this money going? How is it being used? Last year she told us no increase in fee, but she told us last year, this year she was going to ask for 3%. Where does that come from? Does she really need it? Did she hire more assistant DAs? So we were trying to decide how are we, since the 4 counties are paying a huge sum of money for district attorney services, we feel that it'd be appropriate for us to have some kind of accountability of where the money goes. So the end up result was we're gonna write a letter. It's going to be written by Greg. I'm sorry, his last name just slipped my mind, from Chaffee County, and it's going to circulate to all of us. We'll amend it, and then the 4 counties will sign it and send it to Molly and basically say, tell us where this money's coming from, where it's going, how you're using it, what reserves you have, just what we want from everybody else. If you look at our budget, there's a single line there, professional services, $11,700 some odd dollars. We wouldn't accept that with anybody else we're giving a bunch of money to. You know, so we're feeling that we need to know that. So that's where that is. That was agreed by the 4 counties yesterday. The letter will be circulated soon, and obviously the 3 of us will talk about it for Custer County, and which I guess we'll sign it. But however we do it, we'll.
Were there other commissioners there, or were there only commissioners there?
There were commissioners there. There were 2 of the counties have county administrators. The attorneys for 2 of the counties were there just to listen. I think they charge by the hour. That's my guess. That's why they were. I don't know. At any rate, they were there, but it was mostly commissioners talking, and I thought it was an excellent cooperative meeting. We'll agree that it needs to be done. We talked a little bit about the office space that they're gonna move into the new Fremont County Justice Center. I agreed with the others that Fremont County taxpayers pay the bulk of that building, or at least a major portion of it, and whatever rent that Molly pays should go back to the taxpayers of Fremont County, since they're gonna rent space there. So, I thought it was a very, very productive, cooperative, congenial meeting with all the counties going, we just wanna know what the heck's going on. So that's basically where we are.
I trust you represented us well in sharing our desire and want to know the same darn thing. That's what I'm
Absolutely, and I was not the lead by any means. I was agreeing because we all had exactly the same thing. Don't just, and what has happened in the past, there's a number thrown at us, and it's 2 or 3 days before it's due. We have nothing to say okay or no. We have nothing to question. There's nothing, no line items to say, well, what about this? I mean, it's just, here's your number. And we're supposed to go yes, and we all felt that that's really not appropriate.
Just out of curiosity, what's are they all prorated to population?
Yes.
What is it? So
Yes, it's
were
a
they all happy? There wasn't any issue with what we're paying?
That was not even an issue. We didn't even discuss how we prorated. We just discussed transparency. Where's this money coming from? Where's this going? Well, we know where it's coming from. Where's it going?
Yeah.
So that's really what it was.
Well, thank you for attending that meeting. I
It was an
appreciate it.
excellent meeting.
Good. Okay. Anything else, sir?
Nope, that's all I did between yesterday and today.
The only thing I would bring to the commission is I'm kind of excited to tell you that our interim extension director starts Tuesday.
Oh, good.
Dean Oatman is who that is going to be. I spoke with him yesterday. Spoke with his boss the day before. He is coming up for the day on Tuesday. He has to go back because he has a commitment Tuesday night. But he assured me that he will be here at least 1 day a week, if not 2, between now and when we hire a new extension director, and he will be here full-time through the fair.
So Dean Oatman.
Oatman, yep, O-A-T-M-A-N. He has been our extension director in the past. I think he was here for 10 or 11 years. Did a great job, so really excited to have him on board. Be good to have him here through the fair, of course. I think I told you this, CSU is going to pay 100% of his salary. They're asking us to pay his travel. So I spoke with Dean about that yesterday.
Doesn't live in New Mexico, does he?
No, doesn't live too far from New Mexico, about 8 miles.
Not very far.
He lives down southeast of Trinidad. I told him, Bill Noble's a CSU extension. I said, I think that's a fair deal. Typically, we would have paid 25% of his salary. So
What, you said how many days a week?
well, 1 for sure, and possibly 2 if he feels the need to be up here.
But you said full-time through fair, so is that?
During the fair week, he'll be here full time.
Okay.
Yeah, starting on Tuesday morning, he will come up and be here then until the fair is open. And my wife and I have offered him the use of our 5th wheel for him to stay in while he's here, because we would have to pay lodging as well. It was travel and lodging, so the lodging thing we'll donate that. So yeah, so excited about that. I think he just do a great job. Be a super interim position. He was also running for county commissioner in Los Angeles County, and I asked him last night how that went. He said he got beat in the primary. He said it might have been a good thing. So I don't know. Anyway, other than that, that's I don't have anything else to report this
It's a
morning.
good report, and we got some rain.
Yeah, Commissioner Kanda.
Yeah, I don't have a lot either, except that I was worrying about the fire. It was dark and gloomy. Looking at it, kept getting darker and gloomier, and all of a sudden it started spitting at me. Water came out of the sky, nowhere. What a great rain! You get much out at the airport?
Yes, got a lot,
Inch, half an inch. You know, just soaked.
at least an inch.
Yeah, that was the good news part of it. Then got an interesting. We're going to talk about the fair board later minutes, right? Or that's still today.
You're asking us to approve it.
Yeah, we didn't get it on this agenda, but we did agree.
It's on your
pretty much.
paper
It's
agenda.
on the paper.
Oh,
one,
yeah.
so that's why I was asking.
Thank you, yeah, we'll talk about that.
So, yeah, went through the minutes, or their bylaws, looked pretty good.
Good.
We'll have some other comments. And then had an interesting call, about 5 last night. Cindy Howard had been talking, because she's the OEM person, Fox News in Denver gave her a call. And so she gave them some status, and what they were doing is a segment on the differences between different counties, stage 2 requirements, everything's a bit different to a county. And she got into, and we have firearms, so they're okay to shoot out in the country, even though it's on the national forest, it's not. And so that's one of the differences. And so she couldn't explain that much, so they called me, because I was the next point of contact. And they asked a couple questions about how come that's that way. And I told them it was, as long ago, it was a resolution adopted by the county on the right to range issue, and so there's times you need to shoot an animal or you need to do it, whatever. And see, the only other question they had, and then we're just different because we have open range, we're agricultural based economy up here right now. So that was there, and apparently it was put together with a bunch of other counties. I didn't hear about it or anything, but in Denver. And then, by the way, I did talk to Shannon before I stuck my neck out, make sure we're connected with what the stage 2 is here. And that's it for now.
Well, thank you. Alex Rose called me as well. I did not talk to him, I didn't get his message.
Was it Alex Rose or?
I was in the doctor's office, so.
Is that right? Good.
Fox 31 out of.
Fox 31 out of Denver.
Yeah, they called here first.
Yeah, I did not speak with him, but I assume that's probably where he got my name and phone number.
I think on the website.
On the website.
So you're innocent? You
I'm
didn't
innocent.
go send-
I was gonna give them, but then I said, no, you can look it up.
Good. All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Attorney items?
I guess, other than I'm a little disappointed nobody commented on my bow tie that I planned.
I commented.
Well, I know you did.
Oh,
but you
the
don't
red,
comment.
white, and blue.
Right.
Very nice.
Well, then,
It
with
looks
all
really
due
cool.
respect, maybe, could we put our hands over our heart, gentlemen, and just say how much we really like
I was
your
going to wear it yesterday, but it was malfunctioning. My wife had to fix it, so
Oh,
that's
bummer.
why I've got it on today instead.
I like it.
Well,
Looks good.
You have every right to be disappointed. My apologies. You should have commented.
The only thing I wanted to mention, and this is obviously, a lot of this is confidential, but you all saw the contract that
Yes.
came in there. Obviously, there's some serious issues with that we're going to have to talk about. So, and I just glanced at it this morning, but it's not even close to what we talked about.
Would it be appropriate to ask for attorney advice at this point in executive session and deal with that, or?
I haven't really looked through it yet. Let me reach out to Don Banner first of all and tell him this is not what we had talked about, and at least see if, because maybe he didn't get the message. I don't know.
Okay.
But let me talk to him first, and I'll get back to you.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I just thought either I do not understand anything that I'm reading, or this doesn't represent anything that we had discussed.
I thought
There
the
was
same
a-
thing.
Some, the contract from the Haga Trust
Okay.
attorney
Okay.
concerning the,
Got it.
Acquisition of land.
acquisition of land. Yeah, I just thought, I just don't understand. I can't read these documents apparently, but maybe I read it better than I was giving myself credit to, because I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think this is.
Halfway through the first page, it wasn't anywhere close.
So you're going to come back and talk to us about the difference?
I'll email you all after I've communicated with Don
Okay,
Banner.
I
and
looked
let
at
you
it
know.
too.
Good. Okay, anything else, sir?
That's it.
Administrative assistant
Nothing.
items?
Nothing today.
Okay. Staff reports then, we are ahead of time, and I guess I'll maybe back up a little. I'll beg patience just for a second, sir. I gave some thought to the comments we heard yesterday concerning public comment in our meetings. I thought the gentleman had a valid point. I know from the beginning we felt like we needed to do things to be as transparent and open and citizen-friendly, as he put it. I wonder if we could have a public comment before old business or staff reports, depending on the time of the month in our meetings, and limit that to 10 or 15 minutes. And so I don't know, this is really not the time to discuss that, but I just wanted to throw that out so you guys could give that some thought, and maybe we can put it on the next agenda or something, I don't know. But I just feel like, because I've sat in those meetings, school board meetings, commissioner meetings, and gotta sit here till the very end, because if the chairman's doing the job correctly, there shouldn't be any comments other than what exactly is getting ready to be voted on. And if you have a general public comment to bring before the commissioners, then you do end up sitting here toward the end. So I thought he had a valid point. I'd like to discuss that.
Yeah, you had a point. Yeah, something to think about, maybe you had one place, and I don't know, we'll have to talk about it.
And actually, that's what I was gonna ask if you could put on the agenda, would be a public comment discussion about adding a public comment, right after administrative assistant
You want that on 18th?
items. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is that all right, gentlemen? I think we could have a discussion about that on the 18th.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Okay, sir. Bob Jolly, airport, and his trusty assistant.
Good
morning.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Tonto.
Good morning.
Well,
Good morning, sir.
I thought he was more of an ankle kick, because I got one from him this morning with coffee. So, trusty ankle kick. How are you, sir?
I am doing well.
Good, good. Welcome.
I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can.
Okay.
Of course, last month was, we had our ups and downs, lost our chairman,
Yes.
and this month is starting out just as bad.
Okay.
Got a call yesterday from one of our board members, Bob Custer. He's in the hospital again, and he said he didn't think he'd be able to make any more of our meetings, so
Wow.
we need to fill a couple of slots.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He
Wow.
was getting pretty, tough last time I saw him last week.
Okay.
Well, on that note, you guys will work on bringing some suggestions to
Yes.
the commissioners.
Yeah. I haven't even told the rest of our board about that yet.
Okay.
Just got a call yesterday. But
Wow.
at the next meeting, I'll be bringing it up, and we need to get a couple new members.
Okay.
But we did have some good things happen last month. We got our runway closed, and because of some of the rules with the FAA, even after we got the note amount, we got the runway closed, we still had people trying to fly.
Yeah, they weren't paying attention, were they?
No, and I keep saying that people don't read the NOTAMs, and they swear they do, but I know they don't.
But they didn't land.
They did not land. Okay, we received 1,946 net gallons of fuel on the 13th. It was scheduled for the 12th, but we never got a call. And following the guidelines of commissioners, our sale price should be between $438 and $463, and right now it's at $455. The average within the 60-mile radius is 453, so we're right there. And for the first time, Walsenburg is at 415.
Wow.
I've never seen them at
Holy
415.
moly,
Things may be changing down there.
Things may be changing. But in June, we sold 557 gallons of fuel.
Can I ask you a question real quick, sir?
Yes, sir.
You said 557.
57.
57. You said net gallons. 1,946 net gallons. Why did you say net versus just gallons?
Because we have gross gallons that they charge us for. And we have net gallons, which is if you take the specific gravity of what it is and what they load, there's a difference when it comes to specific gravity. So they figure net, and they charge us for net except on excise tax. For that, they charge us gross.
You get more out.
Yeah, they get $120 extra dollars out of us.
Yes.
But we get that $120
Back as we're selling.
Yes.
What is the specific gravity of aviation fuel? Do you know that off?
It's around 71.
Weighs about 6.5 gallons, or pounds a
6.5
gallon.
pounds per gallon.
Good, thank you, I appreciate that.
So anyway, we currently have 1,884 gallons in the tank, and so far in July we have sold 95 gallons just in the first 5 days of the month.
Good.
So while we're talking about that, I had a conversation with Paul Winkie a couple days ago, and told him that I'd get you guys together and we'll talk about whether they'd be interested in buying $1,000 worth of fuel to promote lowering the price a little bit more and promote the economic value into the town, getting people into land, see what it's all about, and getting them into town. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Silver Cliff Mayor yet, but something we can discuss and see if they're interested in throwing in and helping us buy some fuel and lower the price a little bit more. You know, down toward the bottom end of the range, wherever we can get it. So he liked the idea, so let's talk. So we'll see what, if liking it and then actually doing it equal the specific gravity of money.
We did get the load test done, and I haven't heard anything official from the results yet. But I did get a call earlier this week from a surveyor that has been hired by Armstrong to come out and do some surveying. So I'm assuming that the load test went well.
Well, they don't know for sure, but they believe it did. I did mention to our board earlier that we did get the plan that Armstrong has is to get the surveyor contract figured out, get competed it, and before that, so that if the test comes back favorable, which they believe it will, they're ready to start the survey immediately, so that we can start putting in the taxiway and the ramps and all the other things they want to do.
Right. And the reason I got a call from the surveyor is he had a couple of concerns. One was utilities out there, and the second was a requirement that they carry a radio the whole time they're out there. So I told him that call 811 or whatever that number is, call for utilities, and that I would be happy. I've got 2 radios, so I'll loan one of mine so they'll have a radio out there, so they don't have to go out and buy one.
So a radio to communicate with
The
what
aircraft,
entity?
local aircraft.
Oh, okay.
22.9.
Yeah, 1229.
So just to let you know, on 811, when they called for that on the runway, the core drilling, 811 didn't want it. They didn't have any jurisdiction on that. And at that point, I think we talked about it. I can't remember. We discussed it. There isn't any utilities on the runway. But so you need to differentiate that when you call them. So it's not coming and doing an airport job. It's coming and marking utilities to the buildings from the subdivision and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And that's all they'll do is they'll mark the
Where the apron
utilities.
is and whatever.
Because there's nothing out there. The
There's
airport,
nothing
we don't have any runway lights, we don't
Right.
have any sensors in runways and all that, which is primarily what they're concerned about. And we don't have any, so.
That way they're not gonna say, well, we can't do it because we don't do airports.
Now, is that survey just for the ramp and the,
It's for the berms,
Yeah.
or are
the
they gonna
approach,
survey the berm on the east side of the runway?
and the departure end on the south end, because it has to be at a 20-to-1 slope. They're gonna give us all the markings.
When do you expect to get the results? I mean, do they come to you or do they come to
They
them?
come to Armstrong from Caesar, and I talked to both of them a couple days ago, and they were still pulling the data and transferring it into the program, and then I was expecting it before now, this week. I'll call them after the meeting and see where we're at.
I would suspect that they're pretty close, because the surveyor said that he was supposed to have that done by the end of the month.
No, the end of July. July.
So,
That was what they put out on the contract. They'll turn them on the minute they get the
results. So that's pretty much it. Questions, concerns?
Sorry to hear about Bond.
Me too. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
So fulfilling your positions, are you gonna put that in the paper, or are you just gonna post it in the airport for pilots, or how would you like to proceed with that?
Well, if we get anybody that we know of that's interested, and there's one person that I know of that actually lives in the same neighborhood I do, that just retired, that is interested, and I haven't spoken to him yet. Like I said, just got the call yesterday, so. But if need be, we'll put an ad in the paper. Oh, what?
Well, your bylaws have processed.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if you all saw it or not, but we did put an ad in both the little blurb and both the paper.
Yeah,
That was very cool.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna do, what I decided to do is, what we put in the Sentinel this month and what we put in the Trib this month, next month we're gonna swap it around.
Good plan.
So that we have something
Full
different
coverage,
in both papers, and it's,
Yeah, more stuff.
so,
not one over the other,
Right.
so by switching them,
Right.
that's a great plan.
so that's the way we sort of talked about doing that. And we're gonna keep doing it for the rest of the year.
Okay.
See how it works out, try to get people interested. We did get in our grill, thanks to the contributions of some of our board members. Our griddle, actually, it's flat. It's in, assembled, ready to go, except for we need to get a tank of gas and some fuel and get it seasoned. And once we do that, we'll be ready to rip. And we're planning on having some activities for the community to get involved in out there, besides our fly-in that we normally have every year. So we want to bring the community out and let them see that we exist and
Great.
what's going on out there. So,
yeah, section 3, number 2 of your bylaws, current bylaws anyway, states that members shall be selected from a list of applicants obtained from public announcements and or from names submitted by the BOCC or the airport board.
right.
Applicants must apply in writing, so,
Yeah, the way we've done it in the past is either we advertise in the paper or we get input from other board members, and then we tell them that they need to put a letter of interest into the Board of County Commissioners. Then they put in the letter, and then if it's approved by y'all, then they become a member of the board.
okay.
So we'll continue to do it that way.
So you will put an announcement in the paper of record.
Yes.
Very good, sir. Anything else?
No, sir. Unless y'all got any questions.
How about you, Lynn?
I'm good. Fire trucks, okay?
Yes, sir.
Not
Keeping
leaking?
them running?
It's not leaking and it's running.
Good.
It was in the parade,
Oh, they did bring the yellow one up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it.
white one.
Or the white one, I mean.
Yeah, it was in the parade.
Was it? Okay.
Mm.
I didn't
It ran all the way to
Part
town.
two.
Made it all the way.
Part two of the parade.
And hopefully back.
Dallas wasn't.
That I don't
then,
know.
was it?
No. It is parked in the hangar, at least it was this morning.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Bob.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Coming in.
Thank you, sir.
See you later, man.
See you later.
Have you had to use that
Go
fire
out to the
truck yet?
airport.
Not yet.
Fire at that airport.
How's your board member that crashed his plane?
Oh,
Geico?
Geipel?
Hi.
You'll be back
He's
tomorrow.
actually not on.
Yeah, he's not on board, but
Not
This
this
weather.
weather. But he.
pretty active out
Yes,
there.
he is active and has expressed some interest in being on the board, so we'll probably be seeing his name here shortly.
But he's okay from his.
Oh, yeah, he got a few scratches and.
Yeah, he didn't look bruised at all when I saw him.
Oh, you didn't see him,
I saw him
without a shirt on.
Yeah.
Can probably leave the door.
That's a good
open
thing.
again now.
Yeah, we can open that
Did
door
they
back
leave?
up,
I
so,
think so.
no, but maybe they got the idea. Good morning.
Kelly
Thank you,
Sergeant at
guys.
Arms too.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's sergeant at arms, that's right, good morning, how are you?
Hello, Virginia.
Our official greeter left. He was the one, Mike was here, remember, he was our
Oh,
greeter.
yeah, where is he?
I guess probably in court with all the noise he got.
Yeah.
I guess it's going.
Cool. Numbers.
Yeah, wanted to tell you, last year,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're at the end of our,
I was thinking that was what I was supposed to
collection
sign.
season.
That's your
And
copy.
So last year, we started transferring money from Kilt to County General in September. And it was $1,100,000 that we had to transfer from September to January to pay the bills, just FYI.
Mhm. So the balance in that account is $1,000,008. Am I reading that correctly? Okay.
Anything odd, unusual that needs to be brought to our attention?
Pretty copacetic.
I like hearing those words.
Did you have fun at the parade while they're looking?
Oh, yeah, did you?
Yeah.
I heard you broke down.
Yeah, we about 2 blocks, we had to push that baby.
That would have been rough. It was hot enough
It was
as
hot,
was.
it was heavy.
One of your co-elected officials didn't plan very well for the parade because she ran out of candy way too early.
All of us went.
You ran out
Oh,
too?
yeah. And you know, we weren't having that candy. Somebody
That was
donated.
somebody else's candy.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they had brought it and they were gonna throw it and found out they couldn't and they didn't have anybody to hand it out, so they gave it to them to hand out.
Yeah.
Constitutions went well, I think.
Well, except I couldn't,
you
we
couldn't
couldn't
keep up.
catch up to the float that had them so that we could
Well,
get more.
I
It
had
was
to
awful.
run. I was
Oh, I
like,
was a block and a half back.
Oh,
Running wouldn't have been a
no
bad
way.
thing.
Watching a race there for a
Well,
while.
well, I did about that. I ran about that.
You're in better shape than I am now.
Yeah, it appeared to me that we had 2 parades, Part A and Part B.
Well, Sherry told me that
Dance
hula
school.
hoop thing,
Yeah.
that they stayed there about 15 minutes and everybody was
What?
telling them.
Yeah, so,
That was not good. Well, I was wondering why it lasted so long.
Yeah, that's why, because they were
yeah.
holding it up.
Okay, well, good. So,
Do we have to move
We
and
press
accept
on.
this, or are we gonna take it?
yeah, because this.
I
needs to
move
be
we accept
signed off.
Virginia's report as is.
Yeah,
You have it, I
signature
gave it
copy.
to you.
What's that green thing?
I had it
Oh.
on that one.
Sorry.
You didn't have
He
it?
didn't get one, but I'll bet you, well, no, we didn't have it. Yeah, I saw it.
I saw
there
the
were
green
copies
thing.
for everything.
I got a copy.
Don't be telling me you don't have it.
Brenda did the
Even I
right.
had a copy.
Just gotta look in your
I
stack.
thought when she handed me this, it was to be signed for.
Yeah,
And then I saw
Well,
that
surprised.
tape.
that's because I took it off.
Yeah.
Well, I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on here, boys.
Been moved and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. Discussion.
Good work.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay, motion carries.
Appreciate the job.
And I'm giving you my public trustee report here to look at it. And I give it to Kelly.
Thought you were gonna say I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice.
Then I'll be really mad.
I don't know why that thought crossed my mind, but it did. Oh my God.
Kind of sounded that way to me too.
I thought so.
And I'm about to give
You did?
my-
That's a quarter report, you guys need to look at it.
Yeah.
Do they initial it to say that they looked at it?
Never have. In fact, in the old days, it was never given. They never
Didn't
looked at
even look
it. It
at
was just
it.
given it to the clerk to file it.
That's quarterly?
It's quarterly.
So 75 deed of trust.
Yeah,
Okay.
not very much,
Nope.
but the sales are down, so.
Are they really? Will they?
Oh, yeah, I'm only on, 5, but I got my 5th one now. And during the crash, I was doing like 34, 39 a year. So, yeah. Sales are down, but also the releases aren't doing so good either. Usually, when you have releases going, that means that everything's going good.
So, I think the building must be on people that have already banked a piece of real estate, because there's a lot of building going on.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Appreciate it. It's cute.
I love the time.
Okay.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't want to.
So you're always welcome to mention anything you want about ties in this deal.
I think you need to stand and face the camera. So
Well,
those who
yeah,
hear us talking
maybe.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Cindy, we can open that door, right?
Smiley didn't just come in and stand in front of that and think that it's.
Yeah.
Is he still in jail?
Yeah.
Well, it can't be
I
closed
see
all
him
the way.
west every day.
It's gotta be open a
Much
little.
better.
It's
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I'm just
And I
saying.
unlocked this back one.
That's what I thought. I couldn't figure it.
Donna's on her way.
Oh, I couldn't hear it. It was here.
When I talked to Vernon, he said he probably won't be back till 10:30. I think
Like straight.
OEM is probably in the same position.
All emails.
I might have to do new business all over.
So,
Donna's on
Miss
her way.
Hobby's on her way over, so we'll wait for her.
Well, I'll tank up another load of coffee then. Up there.
You're
Cindy.
hitting it hard, aren't
Uh,
you?
I am. This is a.
Mr. Cannon, while you're doing that, I forgot to mention something in Commissioner's report. Tomorrow is our weed tour, county weed tour.
I've been waiting.
So that starts, I believe, at 9. The school is providing a bus, so we're gonna load up on the bus and we're gonna meet in the courtroom first, and then we're gonna go out on a tour. Are you gonna be available, sir?
I can't make it.
We'll do our tour and then come back and have a light sandwich lunch and finish up. So the invitation is out there for all of you to attend the weed tour.
Meet here at what time?
9 o'clock.
Donna wants to share.
So we're gonna drive out south, look at some weeds, and then we're gonna go up towards Alvarado
I was gonna
Campground.
ask you what the circuit was.
Yeah, and then head kind of back in towards town on Willow Lane and come back in. So,
And food.
and food, yes. The weed board is buying lunch. Good morning.
Morning.
You're up. You're next on the handshake.
On the
Yes.
brigade?
Yeah.
Miss Donna.
Nice tie.
There we go. There we go.
It is, isn't it?
There must be a sign on the door.
Apparently you've been live streaming because you knew, right? We've been picking on everybody about mentioning something about his
Well,
tie.
and actually, I'm not live streaming, but I talked to Cindy.
Oh, so okay.
Threw me under the bus.
So you got it live,
She
one
sure
way or
got
the
it
other. Good. Let's see here, I gotta get documentation pulled up, don't I? No, I don't, because we don't
Well,
have any.
I know, I
Yeah,
can send you
okay.
my quarterlies or some other drove and fascinating financial pieces of paper, but, I'm currently balancing out, so, I don't have the big chunks done.
When do we traditionally start discussing budget for next year? Is that usually in August, or do we start earlier?
There is no right time. I mean, we could start having meetings, anytime to go over, a plan, if somebody has a plan or something we want to get in the works beforehand.
You, if I remember correctly, attended the meeting with Dennis Hunt last year when he kind of helped the officials with budgeting. Do you think that would be helpful to do again, or do you think that's unnecessary? I haven't asked him that, but if you feel it's good, I wouldn't mind asking him to come down and kind of give us another training session. I found it extremely helpful.
And
That's just me.
I don't have a problem with him coming back. He had a wealth of information. I do have all the paperwork. If the only two that are here that didn't get them, I could send them what he had and see if you wanted him to come or just look through
That's a great idea.
on that way, because I had taken his flash drive and loaded it so that I had everything that was there. Last year we used a lot of the forms. A lot of people hated a lot of the forms. Really hated a lot of the forms. There are a few that were really awesome. Just to help them and to help the board who maybe doesn't realize what a clerk does, or all the expenses that, she has a lease that's this long and these different things, so that when you were cutting her budget, you would know that can't happen. Right. And so it's just helpful that we didn't have to hash that here. Well, I should say, no, that's a 5-year contract because you already had that document, so
Or you
some
can
of them
refer
were,
to it easier.
right, that some of them were really helpful in the long run.
We don't have to have all the forms.
Right, and that's what I
Get
kind
rid
of
of the
thought,
ones you don't like.
that I changed them all to 2019, and I was gonna have anyone but me, since I don't do the website, put them up there and people could pick and choose if they maybe wanted their lease and a new person or whatever those were, and pull those down and fill them out to submit or no to go with their packet. Instead
Yeah, I
of,
think
making
getting
it that people were just filling out forms to just
That's kind of what I did last year anyway.
on there.
Filling out forms is totally counterproductive, but some of them, if I remember, were really pretty cool. I mean,
Right,
it really
yeah.
helped people get organized on what they needed and how to do it. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't want to
because,
force any forms on anybody, but if it's a tool to help you.
On there, but there were some that had, if someone new were to come into an office and maybe, and I think maybe you had that come up with you, that Debbie had, 5 things in the works, but you wouldn't have known that because you weren't the clerk, and then she had to do the research to find that out. And if those forms every year were a part of their budget packet, she could have looked back and saved days worth of work. And so just things to make it simpler, and then you were all on the same page at that time when they come before
Well, then
you.
we could, if you wouldn't mind sending those to us, we could look at them and then we can decide if,
Just send it to
We
me
think
again
we
too,
need-
so I don't find them.
And I'll go ahead and send you the 2019s that I've
Send the
reformatted.
ones you think are most pertinent.
Okay, and I'll put with the list, and then if you could, while you're looking at them, make sure I got all the dates, because I did just go through them each by hand to make sure I changed it to the right budget year. And then see, if you think one is just silly, then I wouldn't put that one.
Sure.
But I kind of just made a folder with those.
And then I'd like to talk about the handwritten, so I'm looking to see who sent that.
report to all of us, correct?
Yes, because I sent what I was sending to the Sentinel.
I had spoken with Mrs. Hobby about being able to track our handwritten checks.
Got a copy of that.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping that we can continue that on a monthly basis. And because as I understand it, and after talking with Donna, there was no way as commissioners we were going to ever see that list.
Yeah, you have to ask for it once.
On there.
Yeah, you're right, don't see it otherwise.
So now I think
And
we'll,
I just never thought to send it to you as well as the newspaper to have the other. And most of the time it's 5 checks, the electric bills and the copiers. But some months you have just a huge amount that, like a lease payment that comes on the 4th, that we receive it, but it's due the 15th, and that's a difference of $700 or $800 on the payment. So it's just like way better check all handwritten.
Did you get the answer on why the electric bill was so high? I forwarded it to you.
I did not.
Okay, they have air conditioning down there, unbeknownst to me. When we had our heat wave, they had many of the residents came to cool off. I told them
Is that right?
was perfectly appropriate. I did not know they had air conditioning.
Yeah,
I
they got-
apologize for not doing that.
So
I
And
didn't
that's
know
what I
that.
thought was maybe an AC, and that's just
That's what it was.
normal,
And they
because
ran
in
it.
winter.
It is hotter
you
now.
can't. Yeah,
Very hot.
yeah.
And some of the folks, don't take this wrong, are a little elderly, and I'm glad they had a place to go cool off, so I'm fine with it. It was just an anomaly, why the winter and then it dropped, and all of a sudden it shot
Just
up.
the opposite.
Yeah.
And I was
with
unaware of
real-
air conditioning. If I knew there was air conditioning, I would have said it was air conditioning.
Well, and if we'd had a normal winter, we probably wouldn't have noticed, but it was
Correct.
such a
Because it's
lighter
so
winter.
low.
Yeah, and
Right.
so it would have probably just kind of leveled out
But
to
we
the
did
same.
hear back from them, and I'm okay with it unless anybody else has an issue.
And we just
No,
make
I-
sure there wasn't something broken, then we just said, oh, well, no, it's not fine.
yeah, I had looked at that whole set of construction plans when I was down there at some prior engagement several months ago and saw that there were two 2-ton units out there on the west,
I forgot.
kind of on the west side of the building. They're ground mounts, they're not roof mounts, so. But yeah, I thought that was, I appreciated getting a copy of that email. So, oh, yeah, okay,
Perfect.
makes sense.
Well, they get
But-
to visit, so that's nice, that's an added bonus, so.
Yeah, 'cause it was almost double, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very high,
Yeah.
but understandable.
So, good. Anything else, Ms. Donna?
No problems from my end,
That's
so.
what we like to hear.
Human resource side, we okay?
Yes, we're always okay on that side.
It's a good thing you have your back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah. Coming in.
Thanks.
Thanks, Donna.
I'm tempted to buy a bow tie, but I just can't go there.
I have one, but it's a Texas flag, so I'm not wearing it.
Don't wear it out here.
You
would
could-
get grief
You
for
could
that.
try that, what the heck?
I have one.
Yeah, you could.
Nobody asked me if I tied it myself.
I was gonna ask you, and I thought,
I'm a lawyer, I can't even tie my shoe.
I knew
Mine's a
from last
clip-on,
time.
too.
Yeah.
I knew from last time when you said your wife had to
You had to fix it.
fix it.
what's next on the agenda?
Well, we're
Cindy?
probably gonna have to postpone
Cindy.
OEM and IT because they must be out of town. Well, I know they're out of town. So.
Yeah, Vernon said he'd be here by like 10:30.
Yeah.
What do you come to?
Let's move on to new business.
Well, that's, yeah.
Recess.
That's what I was just getting ready to ask if the gentleman would entertain a recess.
Why not?
For 5 minutes or so. And then I think we will move on to new business. I'm not super thrilled about that, but it is what it is. So we
Yeah, we'll stand in adjournment.
I'm gonna go raid Clint's cookie jar.
Yeah, I'm struggling with
Yeah, as soon as you sat down, they almost got up and left, right?
Yeah, it was sweaty and smelly, yeah.
I'm gonna.
I think it's for you to go down there.
Let's hear the.
Yeah, I'm not gonna panic.
First,
But I am gonna ask.
I would
Last I heard, it was like 20-some thousand acres in Castillo and like 80 in Warfield.
Yeah.
So, you know, it changed really quickly to where it was their fire.
Oh, good.
And-
Good,
Yes.
good.
Well, I just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
The meeting will come back to order. Our next staff report is Office of Emergency Management.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm not as tired as I was.
Looks a lot better than yesterday.
Don't I? And the day before that, and the day before that. I apologize I didn't get you a written staff report. That's just not gonna happen right now.
No.
But, I'll give you a few updates, on things in the office, and then we can talk about fires if you want. Based on the meeting we had out at the airport, with land use agreements and things, Joe Loviando with the Division of Fire Prevention and Control said that they would do spot land use agreements, and so we decided to draft an MOU. The MOU we drafted, I need to send to you because I don't think I've sent it to you, but right before I left, the airport authority had a meeting and said, other than like one word change, they liked the MOU, and it's actually an MOU, so the next step is to send it on to you. It's kind of a moot point because we're all the same county agency, but it was just something to say, you know, the MOU between the airport board and the county commissioners that say they want to play in the sandbox, they want to support anything we need, including air assets out there during a fire. So I know it doesn't really have any legal clout because you have all the power, but I think it's a good document in that it just shows that cooperation ahead of time. And then Bob.
John.
No, the other Bob.
Giacomelli.
Thank you. He would probably be the liaison, so as an expanding event, and this is not in the MOU, but we talked about during policy group meetings that if there was an expanding event, he would like a phone call and brought in on, you know, just some of that heads up situation. You know, we might be staging air assets, and you know, they're doing that at the old Levita airport. They're doing a lot of water and stuff out of there.
So who's got the MOU now?
They sent me an email back with a word change on it, and I need to forward that on to Clint so I can get MOU done.
And then we will eventually get that as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, it would come to you because I wasn't gonna sign it. I set it up to where it was, an MOU between the commissioners, and we just took that school MOU we had done before. A little bit of talk with Alyssa on land use agreements. I need to follow up with George Coons. I think Saddle Club has a standing land use agreement, but it could be that it's just for Junkins, and so, you know, if the feds came in, we'd need to look at a new land use agreement with the FPC, or a little different than on the surf side, the resource rate form. And then there was some mention of the Cowboy Church maybe doing land use agreements and doing those. I know that the team over there now is working on land use agreements for the school, and I think for the Saddle Club for their use, so those are all pretty specific. The Ready, Set, Go grant, I need to start doing status updates, and I went to look at one area that we were looking at to put that in, and I think we might have to look at an alternative, but I've got that money ready to go. Some of the other PILT money, I've been talking to the Puerto Verde HOA. They could probably pull a project together pretty quickly, and then I went over those funds with Brenda and Donna and what's available and what has to be spent, and I know there's some new monies coming in. I sat in on a webinar on that FEMA grant because the new FEMA pre-disaster mitigation grant, it won't be opening for another month or so. If we wanted to go after that, it's $425,000 for each county affected by disaster death. Up until 10 days ago, it was only Custer County and Pueblo County that were eligible, but now that'll be Warfield County and Castillo County and maybe some other counties. I haven't heard on these other fires who has disaster decks. That pot of FEMA money is going to come in, you know, it'll probably be like approval in 2019 and spending in 2020, but that pot of money is going to come into the state from FEMA, and it's, first dibs is gonna be the counties that had a disaster declaration for fire in place by October 1st, 2016, forward. They're still working out those details. So, if we did something, the original Coco had like the idea that if Pueblo and Custer worked on something together to get that pot of money, they could have a full-time mitigation staffing person. So that might be something to look at, with Orfano County too, because we could potentially be going after, $1.2 million of FEMA funds. That would have to be, your decision down the road, but I'll try to follow up on that. It's definitely, we get spread too thin, so to do that kind of thing, you've got to have a full-time staffer or two as part of that grant to even look at that. And what the scope of that would be. The state, that FEMA money goes from FEMA to the state and then gets passed through, so we'd have to figure out what exactly conditions the state would put on the fire. So I
You think that's necessary? Something we should be really pushing or not? You just bringing it up?
Bringing it up, we don't, in my opinion, for Jenkins, we don't have, because of the private property the lands we're on, we don't have specific projects for, like, say, the post-wildfire flash flooding, that kind of thing. We're not looking at, like, storm collection points, stormwater collection, but it can be used for structure hardening, for fuels reduction. It can be used for some other things on private lands, and it can be used on private lands. So, our areas back to like Corona Verde and Woods at Buck Mountain and some of these areas that if we have a fire.
Is it restricted to private land or no? It can be used on private land?
Well, it wouldn't be available for federal lands. It would be coming as a pre-disaster mitigation. So, if we had potentially, and I don't know all the details, but I would think that infrastructure, like if we had a bridge we knew that needed some work, it might be, we could propose projects like that, but it's really more on the, like the flood, the erosion,
but
and the
pre
fuels
or post
mitigation.
or both?
Huh?
Pre-disaster only or both?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pre and post?
It's
can be post-disaster?
yeah. This is not pre-disaster.
Okay.
This is
I just was wondering about.
Yeah, this is not pre-disaster mitigation. This is the acronym's not coming to me right now.
I wonder if we could get some help on trying to reestablish that road down there that was washed out.
And that's federal jurisdiction, so, like,
So
what is your portion's only about 1.5 miles up through Bill Brownlee's? That's, I think we should, I know Paul Christina's extended his tenure another month. I think his final day is August,
kidding.
and he's probably regretting that right now.
Yeah, no kidding. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I found that out over at the fire briefing from Brian. So so he's here till like August 4th, and a lot of that will be, I think it's August 4th, it's August something. But a lot of that will be determined by his replacement, I think. But I think we need to, not we, but you need to put some pressure on him on, as far as on the replacement, because I think even when that comes forward as a project, it's going to be a couple years out. Especially have this early fire come down, that North Hardspeck gravel drainage, it would have taken out Highway 96, the first flash flood, or had that potential, and South Harts gravel, that was part of my argument. South Harts gravel is our only alternate route through there.
Yeah.
I know they were really worried about that, so I don't see a press release this morning for updates. Some folks were asking on Derby Fire for some updates on containment. When I was at the 1800 briefing last night, none of the rain had hit the burn scar. It was all west. It hadn't hit that. But they were feeling pretty confident. They had lined craft all the way around it. And just the fact it didn't get away from them the night before in those winds was encouraging.
Pretty good deal.
They talked their costs at 1800 were about $344,000, not including their assets. And so the rough numbers I'm coming up with from Dennis Page and from the team, about $28,000 an acre to fight that fire. And we shouldn't have a cost share, but if that had happened somewhere else, wherever, you know, one of our HOAs, I think we'd be looking at about $140,000 cost share at this point, minimum, you know, and that's, I haven't seen any of those conversations happening down south, but if they had a moment to breathe, and, you know, they'd probably be pulling you aside as policymakers and trying to get you to sign something, and I saw some of that down south, but folks not signing things, trying to let the clock tick a little further along before they signed the delegation, specifically BFPC, and we think they were trying to wait to get the federal team in to try to shift it, and I'm not entirely sure how that affects all the billing, but the finance piece is, it's a monster, and that's kind of where I'm interested in figuring those out. I was helping with John Alicia, and still kind of connecting the wiring and the finance piece, so. But we're looking good up there. They were talking about pulling out in 2 or 3 days. I know Kit had arranged for showers for the guys, and Shannon had made the final contacts, and that was great over there. You know, there's emergency management is really all about the consequence piece. We're not managing fire ever. You know, my job is not to run to the scene of the fire. My job is to be, you know, behind the scenes trying to coordinate that consequence piece, and I understand we have a new large animal evacuation person at the table here, so thank you for your work on that, Tom.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly not the person, I just kept getting the phone calls, so.
Yeah, no.
I kept trying to refer them to you because I felt like that's where it really needs to go through, isn't it? And that's the other thing.
Well, and that's the coordination piece, so, you know, we need a large animal team. It's that span of control and delegation, and Sarah Shields and I have touched base. I need to follow up with George Coons, but our 2013 large animal evacuation plan that Christy had worked on, it's not been updated since 2013. I don't think there's ever been a committee. There were some folks. It really says that that animal piece comes together at the order of the sheriff.
Yeah,
and that it only involves sheltering, not evacuations. So we, you know, and we were hearing the same thing. We were getting calls down there that people were bringing their horses to Custer County, and you know, and down there on that incident, the large animals were going to Levita. There was a big problem even there because Carl Beeman, the Orfano County Extension agent, was running the show on large animal. But there was a veterinarian there that was helping, and she didn't want them in Levita because of the health issues for the smoke for the animals, so she was pushing them to Los Animas that was unstaffed, and apparently Jake Shy stole some horses, but the veterinarian thought the horses went to Trinidad, and Jake and Kit had brought them back, and this veterinarian reported them stolen to the Trinidad Police Department. And Kit laughed and said,
Well, we heard yesterday was stolen horses, now they're accounted for.
Yeah. Well, Jake and Kit evacuated them from Levita, but the woman said they were...
Errors occur, and that's fine.
Oh,
I just want to make sure they weren't stolen.
It was kind of funny, no. There were a lot of rumors like that. No, they were never stolen.
Well, I'm assuming
they were just misplaced.
We're going to have an after-action report meeting on this Adobe fire.
Yeah.
We've got some holes.
Yeah.
I was surprised because I thought we were going to be a little more organized than we are in that area specifically.
In the large animal?
Well, animals, period.
Yeah, animals,
My
period.
phone blew up about animals.
Well, and it's, you know, a large piece of that is managing public expectations. The public has an expectation the firemen are going to show up and help them load their sofa when they evacuate. And, you know, we have to change that perception to the public. That's not our job.
Well, and it's not just perception. We did not have it in place. We did not have a good plan in place to deal with large and small animals. And I thought we did, but it just fell apart, and everybody started trying to do their own thing, and it was a train wreck. So
yeah, no, and that's probably just one piece of it. I know I've talked to Alyssa on, you know, now if we're going to open a shelter, you know, that order really needs to come from the Levita Emergency Operations Center. Not necessarily the emergency management piece, but Carl Beeman had some Facebook posts about, you know, reaching out and having some help, or I don't know if it was an email, Alyssa showed me one, and, you know, so we were trying to connect Carl back to go in, you know, make a phone call to your emergency operations center, say I need this help, and then get it in place because of the land use agreements, because of the liability, and then probably, you know, connect that piece back to Shannon. Are you okay with that? This county's, you know, asking for mutual aid. I mean, that's a big piece. You're talking about feed and water and liability and disease, and, you know, in Warfno County, it's Carl Beeman. In Pueblo County, it's Tom Lacka. I think Fremont County is really lacking. I'm not sure about Los Angeles County, and now that we're back, you know, I think Robin Young would have probably taken off with that piece. I know Sarah Shields used to be the team lead, but from what I can tell, that whole large animal piece has not been updated or revisited since 2013.
Well, yeah, and it's just not the large animal, that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, the small animal. Well, and it's sheltering,
ridiculous.
and Red Cross does not shelter animals, so, you know, so even on the small animal, you know, but on the ag piece and the emergency operations plan, the large animal is you know, coordinated with the extension office, so, you know, we'll have to try to dial that back together at some point.
Yeah, there were several circumstances that probably made it the perfect storm. You know, we have a lot of people that have personal friends down there, and that whole process got short-circuited.
Come up to your place.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, and, you know, I think a lot of it, you know, in my opinion, you know, and we can certainly discuss that. I can take direction from anywhere, but whether it's your own self evacuating your
how does that
animal.
happen? That's really the question. So what's the next step to fix it?
Set a procedure.
Well, we can rewrite the plan, but I don't think we have the volunteers in place. And, you know, it's a function under emergency management. It's span of control. You know, I'm not gonna tell the fire department how to operate. I'm not gonna tell Road and Bridge how to operate. So,
No,
you know,
it's
it's
a
trying
big
to
picture, but somebody has
create
to bring everybody together.
and our
lead it.
Our citizens emergency response team has some gaps there too. Our medical reserve team probably does as well. You know, they've got a lot of folks on the roster, but you know, other than the 9 health fair, I mean, that's their kind of training and deployment every year, and so I don't know. I know Alyssa had connected with the folks down south. Did they need MRC folks? So a lot of that, you know, connecting the dots, and you know, and so much of what's in my program now is dictated by, you know, the mandatory grant deliverables, not by what we really need to be doing. And I talked to Christy Coleman a little bit about that. You know, another example is mitigating the DTR towers. You know, we've talked about that. I've talked with Dennis Page about that. I've talked with Phil Daniels from BFPC. So, you know, it was a little crazy to see a woman on the phone, you know, calling everybody and saying, we need to go mitigate this tower, you know, right in the fire. It's like, you know, that need was 6 months ago. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't when the fire is 1.5 miles from Sheep Mountain, we need to go in there and mitigate. But that's part of how the federal teams work. They're doing mitigation.
How do we start a coordinated effort to get the entities involved? I mean, who should be the lead to make the phone calls and organize and get the conversations moving?
Pre or during the event?
Now, you got a lot of lessons learned.
I want to know what we'll do for the next disaster.
Yeah.
Who should take the lead on that, do you think?
Well, it can be emergency management, or we should at least be invited to the meeting. I know Terry Munson and George Coons had a meeting at the Saddle Club 3-4 weeks ago that we weren't invited to. They came up with a list of property owners that were willing to shelter and property owners that were willing to haul animals, and then they sent that.
You've said that several times. You said the Office of Emergency Management is responsible for dealing with the consequences, and so now you've got a good rack up of that. So that's what we're asking.
So
let's just leave it. We don't have to talk about who had a meeting before.
Okay.
Let's figure out what we're going to do now and get the right people that have had meetings together.
Okay. So everything's done under emergency support functions. Does anybody have a copy of the emergency operations plan here? Okay. So it will say,
Right, so
it's mass care.
So, but somebody has to be, all we care about, we don't need to listen to the each little piece, but we need to know if it's you or somebody in your chain of command or whatever that ought to coordinate with all these people, including us.
Right.
To bring everybody together to discuss how do we fix it.
It's been delegated through the EOP. The connection piece needs to come back, but the direction needs to come from the folks with the authority to direct them to do that.
Okay, so
So
we just need to get the right players together. So we need. You've been in the middle of all
yes,
this.
and it would be a great time to lean forward and pull all those people together, decide what that command and general staff's gonna look like, who's gonna staff those emergency service functions. Is it gonna be,
So
this person or this person
do?
for animals?
What would you suggest?
I would suggest we try to call those players together and figure out what that org chart looks like and who the 1, 2, and 3 contacts are gonna be.
Okay.
And then have them go out and work on a plan.
So not CES though.
It's a different MAC group, but it's a different mutual aid group. I mean, some of them are the same players, there's gonna be a lot of overlap.
We wouldn't use CES.
We could do
to
it
do
at
that.
that meeting and ask for some other folks to come, or we could set a different meeting and look at, who
So I like
to come
to
do that.
focus it back down here. So if people are going to be asking Custer County to help evacuate, blah, 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 whatever it is, we have the ability to pull a team together and say, we want to do this for our own sake, and how we're going to work with other counties and all that. So let's just figure out, maybe it is, go get us a list of things. Let's lead it, see? So we don't have to get a meeting together and say, well, who's going to lead it? I think we ought to just grab a hold for our own piece and start doing it. Start pulling the people in and then see where it goes. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Not really.
If it's OEM, you're it.
Right.
So go get a meeting together.
Okay. I
Is
can
that
set.
appropriate?
That's what I'm asking.
No, I think it's
Okay, so
it's
that makes
appropriate
sense.
to start that
So we can get it.
So when we still have those gaps, then it's appropriate also for
Figure out
folks with authority,
where it overlaps. And
with the
which
Could be who.
well,
Typically.
it depends on the
Depends on the
agency. So mass
circumstance.
care, that might come back to your public health folks.
Sure.
I have no authority to direct the public health folks, so that might be
But we
you.
had them at the table.
Right.
So my thought would be, maybe we should organize first and then put
Yeah.
this together.
Maybe a small meeting
Who
and
would
then.
we need?
Right.
What is it we're trying
Right.
to solve? What holes are there that we want to plug? And then let's get the people together and say, how do we want to do this? I'm not looking to put this on you.
Yeah.
I mean, and you may not, whoever the lead is, I really don't
Just
care.
get
I want
somebody to pull a
someone to
meeting
know,
together.
Right.
here's the phone tree, get on it.
And it's exactly, it's pre-plans, it's points of contact, it's trigger points.
Exactly.
What's that trigger point when it's pulled?
Sure, and you need to
And if you call me, or Meredith, or Tom, or Shannon, or whoever, what's that trigger point? Well,
Right.
you need to call, this person. If they're not
and what are
answering,
the
you need to call
plans,
this
and then you
person.
develop the sub-plans that says, all right, if we're gonna bring all our animals up, here's their feed, who's gonna bring the feed, who's responsible, how do they get the word to the people that are, calling.
And-
So, we're in the middle of a crisis now.
Mhm.
I recognize our Adobe one, I just read the update a minute ago, it was
Okay.
70% contained. I'm feeling very good about that at the moment. But we do have a monster down the road. I heard on the news this morning it was like 35% contained, I don't know.
That's what I saw last night.
That's what I saw on the news.
Right.
That made me feel very good, but, this is still a monster. I would say, let's make this a goal once the crises are over,
Yeah.
and then when we have a time to take a deep breath, everybody gets a rest, then maybe we could sit down and start thinking through, what is it that we need to do? It's kind of like Tom said, a post-op to figure out, what did we lack, what are we missing, and how can we fix it for the next time?
It's gaps, and I will tell you, if you've read the Junkins After Action, a lot of times they don't get fixed. You write the report, you say, these are the
You have
gaps,
to have the follow.
And that follow-up is the hard part. And if you look at what the failures in Napa were, it was cascading, events, expanding events, cascading events. The failures breakdown, mutual aid is a huge one, which we're seeing now. There's not enough folks.
Right.
And then, volunteer burnout. Because what you're talking about for all your large animal stuff, and once you go FMAC, those folks are probably getting paid, or they have the potential to. But you're asking, and we're in a great community for volunteers, and the volunteers want to help and they want to be on scene helping during the disaster, but they're not interested in a whole lot of meetings and writing the plan and being ready, and that's one of the failure points, is that getting ready to pull the trigger.
So let's just not try to serve anything. Just a suggestion is, once the crisis is over, let's kind of put that on a priority list of what do we need to do to fix this, to make it better. I don't know if we'll ever fix it completely.
And try to get those different players together.
I think let's sit at a table and have a round table and everybody throw out their ideas.
And we throw out, who the lead agency is for that. And because some of that is volunteers, maybe we have to divvy up as a county that the lead agency is going to be planning and zoning, or, the assessor's office or something, even though they may be working with volunteers underwork, but we've got to delegate within our own county to coordinate that, because it's a big effort.
I know who we're going to call and say, hey, let's get this.
Well, and it was kind of a situation of a perfect storm. I mean, had Adobe happened in and of itself,
Right.
that would be different than the fact that it happened during
Another big
spring fire.
And
So people, I just think private citizens decided they were going to take on roles and responsibilities that they really didn't have any business doing as far as the operations plan was concerned. There's no reason to have an operations plan if we're not going to follow it, number one. But if there's a lack of direction, then people will form their own direction, and I think that's what happened here.
Well, and you saw it in Harvey too. You can send all the FEMA teams you want down, but it was the citizens with the boats that saved the day, and they're looking at how to do that. So,
well, I think a lot of the plans are in place, but it's the gaps between the plans.
Yeah.
So I would like to see us start that conversation at the CES meeting, if nothing else.
And I don't,
There's a
I
lot
think
of
public
players
health
there.
has some of their plans, the clinic has plans, there's, Shannon has plans, but I don't
They
think
need to be coordinated, that's the key.
it's really, it's tough.
So will there be an after-action meeting and subsequent report on Adobe?
On Adobe, we can certainly do, and we can pull that together. We had incorporated in the CES meetings after action, and we did Hardscrabble, and we did that not because Hardscrabble was a big event. We did it for the training to look at what some of the gaps were. Adobe, had it been its own fire without this, I think if you read the front page story on the newspaper, the author is pretty right on. We wouldn't have those resources, we wouldn't have that coordinated attack, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it's,
Very fortunate.
Well,
we need to continue to talk, preparedness, ready, set, go, and all those components.
Switching gears real quick, let me ask you, how many days were you down
Down
on the spring deal?
there? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I came home Tuesday, 6 days.
6 days. What I'm trying to get a feel for is our mutual aid, what that looked like with Custer, Huerfano, or Los Angeles counties. Were you the only person?
Oh, no. So we put in, when I walked into the EOC, there were probably...
I mean, from Custer County.
Oh, from Custer
Sorry.
County.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was the only person
Okay.
on day one from Custer County. There were a lot of folks. on deployment to Custer County, two of my colleagues they were Homeland Security grant coordinators, stopped in to help me for about 3 hours that night. We put in resource orders for command staff. They weren't filled.
But from Custer County only?
No.
You were the only one?
Me, and then Meredith, John Decker came down and helped. John Tillotson helped yesterday with the rapid tag stuff. Kit and Shannon made a trip down, and then we had 3 deputies doing evacuations with, when they put out the call, they had 10 from Pueblo, 3 from Custer, so there was a lot of law enforcement. So we had 3 deputies, 2 firefighters, 2 OEMs. I saw Sylvesta down there. I think she was helping with the disaster assessment. I saw Desiree walk by. I didn't get to talk to her. So I think that was it from the mutual aid piece.
Good.
Everybody else was from other areas.
You have a question?
You were talking, it's back to the animal thing. We're still in that crisis. There are still people that, what I understand, that want to bring animals to Custer County. And you've talked a lot about the aftermath, but we're in it now.
Right.
And so what do you want to do about it right now?
So Meredith has been coordinating in the EOC down there, and as of last night, she told me that they did not want us to open an emergency, a large animal shelter. The word from their agriculture lead for large animal is that we don't encourage that. We don't do that on our own. If they want to pull that trigger, they know that we're willing to do that.
I don't think that we were doing it on our own, never offered it much, except for the fact that people were calling and saying, we need a place for our animals, even Carl Beeman saying, we will bring down hay. So there's a mass miscommunication on who is saying that we are, and this is the first I've heard that we're not. So all we've heard so far is that the people down there want to come to Westcliff. So
like a people shelter, or are we talking like animal shelter?
I'm just talking animal.
Okay. And I know we've got
people want to bring their animals here.
And we've also got the fair gearing up, and Alyssa told me yesterday that there were some folks on fair board that do not want them coming to the fairgrounds, so she was kind of...
And from what I understand, they changed their mind on that.
Okay. And then you know more than I do. But the communication and the miscommunication and the coordination are issues, throughout the area.
It's still an issue, so what do we do about it now?
So, moving on, if the system functions like it's supposed to, their large animal person down there needs to go through their EOC to have animals brought up here.
He has a role in the EOC. He's there briefing. He's coordinating with their EOC every day. He can say, I'm going to do this, but he needs to coordinate that messaging through the EOC.
So who has the authority to issue that, Cindy? Who would order people to bring their animals up here or to Los Angeles or to Trinidad?
It would probably be Carl Beeman saying that. So right now, the messaging out of there was Levita was primary, Los Animas County Fairgrounds was their secondary. That is their plan. If they are requesting us to open, Paul can...
Nobody ever asked us to do anything?
No, not to my knowledge. Nobody has officially asked Custer County to do anything. So he has the authority, but the messaging, the coordination needs to be through the EOC. He needs to make sure...
But that didn't occur.
To my knowledge,
it occurred at some level because they ordered people to go somewhere with their animals. Right?
So, if Carl Beeman, being their large animal evac person, contacts this county and says, we need to evacuate some animals to Custer County. In my opinion, the answer to that question needs to come through you. True or false?
I would say if we had an extension agent or a point of contact, it could go straight from Carl
Okay.
to that point of contact, and then that coordination piece needs to come back to me as the EM, or back through the EOC down there, which the EM is a part of, because we're at a real,
But they would have to know who to call here, so.
Right,
in this
and if
case-
they
in this
didn't
case,
know-
did they know or not?
Well, they didn't
care.
know because we didn't have one. That's part of the
That's right.
problem.
yeah,
So
we don't have
I would
one.
have thought they would have said, looked at you, find out in Custer County what we can do, but
See, and that's exactly what I think, that
And I have Meredith to back me up, so if my phone doesn't answer, but, I've been getting slammed with so many phone calls and emails and stuff, they're not gonna stop at one person. You almost need to be, 5 or 6 deep in every county.
that's true.
Yeah, see, I get it. If we have a point of contact for any animal, large or small, because believe me, my phone has been blowing up over these small animals, which irritates me, that we do not have something in place. And we've talked about it through our hazard stuff. We know we don't have anything. That needs to be addressed. But nonetheless, if Carl Beeman in this circumstance calls up here, if we have a contact person, then if that truly is going to be the contact person, then why would it go back to the EOC or OEM? Why doesn't it start with them and then go to our contact person?
Well,
that would be my question. Because to me, the emergency manager should be the top notch, and a large animal person contact would be under that. So why not that call from Carl to you to the large animal person, or if we're all in agreement, he can call our large animal person, and then our large animal person takes care of it.
Yeah.
Done.
I think for efficiency's sake, it would be large animal to large animal, but the communication goes back so that the left hand knows what the right
Not
hand is
authority,
doing.
not authority, just communication.
Yeah.
I made the decision, I'm telling you, we're taking animals.
Yeah.
And that's not stepping on anybody's toes, if that's what we all agree that we're gonna do.
If that's the plan.
Right, if that was the plan.
The issue with the current plan is the current plan that I read says, and the current plan is written from the perspective of it's our fire, it's not.
Right.
And we use the term mutual aid, and we don't all agree on what mutual aid is.
But that's okay, they're in control of the whole big picture down there, and they got people they gotta get out.
We need help.
So they just need to know who to talk to.
So I'll use the example of the hospital down there. Public health, the hospital folks down there at Spanish Peaks made the decision to evacuate that hospital. They had the authority to make that decision. Sure. They evacuated to 3 different hospitals. They've got everything closed down to the ER. That decision wasn't made by the EM. The EM wasn't involved at all.
So that must have been in their plan.
But that
authority, right?
They have that authority. But then that message that needs to come back so that when we're telling everybody what happens, what's going on, that we are aware of that. So they're posting, they're sharing that message. The downfall of that is, now they're saying we're losing over $70,000 a day because this hospital's shut down. So, they had the authority to do it. They're gonna have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I literally just came from their EOC, and the hospital opened back up this morning, and they're taking people back in.
In the vein to move on, I assume because one, I'm on the Board of County Commissioners, 2, I happen to know this person and have for over 30 years, Carl Beeman I'm talking about, and thirdly, probably because I'm connected to agriculture. That's the only reason I think I was contacted.
Oh, okay.
Nobody ever said to me, officially, including Carl Beeman, that they needed to do this. It was, we may need to, we might need to. I was wondering if you knew who the best contact for the Cowboy Church up there was. Cowboy Church was never in the operating plan. That was all somebody personally saying, well, I think the Cowboy Church could take these animals. We have heard that they are accepting evacuated horses. And if they are, we might have some donated hay we could send up. That kind of stuff, in my opinion, does not need to be coming to a commissioner. I sure as hell am not going to make those decisions because it's not my authority. We have people in place to make those.
And those kind of private pieces, if a resident wants to bring his horses to the cowboy church, I don't think we have a role in that. That's
don't either.
fine.
As long
But
as,
they
That
were-
can
as
happen.
long as we have no responsibility there if there's
Right.
disease or other issues.
If it's not in our operating plan, then we wouldn't. They're going outside of the plan, so they're on their own. Because, believe me, I've already
Exactly.
taken grief about this, so I wanna read you my response to him. Hey Carl, sorry I couldn't take your call, I was in a commissioner meeting. Cindy Howard is our emergency manager, I will send you her number. In my opinion, that's what needs to be happening. Because if we start mavericking this thing, there is no communication. I wasn't gonna tell him, I did send him Sarah Shields' phone number because I thought that was outside of our operating plan. If they wanna privately go start doing this stuff, I've got 3 evacuated horses at my house. But I didn't do that through the county, I did that as a favor to a personal friend.
And
I accept that liability,
I
not
was
the
gonna say, I
county.
think that's the key word,
Yeah.
is that
And
liability.
that is what I'm concerned, I mean, I want the horses safe, and I don't want the county to take on unnecessary liability.
And the problem was, we don't have an extension person.
Yeah.
Extension promotes this large animal thing, they buy into that, it's not like the weed thing. But we didn't have one, so there was another gap. So anyway, I'd like to
Yeah.
move on.
Okay.
I think, if nothing else, I don't even know when the next CES meeting is, I could look, but,
It's always the third Tuesday, so as long as we
I
hit
think,
that.
yeah, I think if nothing else, if we do not bring it up there, then we need to bring it up again and say, okay,
Yep.
we've got a plan, it's not like we're just helter-skelter,
Right.
but we gotta fill these gaps.
We got a 5-year-old plan that needs a
Yeah.
champion to take on that plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Correct.
the gap, is we need that coordination piece, and I don't know who that person is, especially if we're not gonna have a new extension agent for,
Yeah, it could be
3 months.
3 months. I want to ask this question while both you and Vernon are here. If it's none of my purview and none of my concern as a commissioner, just tell me that, because I don't know. You went to Levita today? Vernon?
Yes, sir, I left this morning about 5 o'clock, to go down and work with the ITJS people to see how they operated. I stayed there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then came back.
You can read into this question whatever you want, I can't control that, but I'm just gonna ask you the question point blank. You're our employee, was that a mutual aid thing? Did you do that on your own? Was that through EM? I just need to get my head wrapped around this.
They asked for help.
No, they weren't asking for help. I asked Vernon yesterday, I told him that I had made those 2 contacts. Jeff Byland did not have the Code Red widget, and I showed him our website of how we did that. He was having difficulty making that work. And then they have some really nice features set up in their EOC. And I told Vernon, if you have a chance to go run down there, see what they're doing, make these connections to build that mutual aid piece, get those shape files and layer files, I thought it was a good idea.
And I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I got no problem.
It was not working there,
I was
it
gonna
was,
say,
it was
I appreciate you
networking.
Yeah.
doing that. I think,
Did you find
this is
anything?
my personal opinion.
Yes, I had a good education down there.
And I think that's wonderful. That'll come back to help us in the future potentially. Thanks for doing that. That's my personal opinion.
And I do not intend, I may be doing it, but it's not my intention to micromanage these things. So that's not the point. You certainly are gonna run your emergency management deal like you see fit, that's what you're getting paid to do, don't have a problem with that. So, when we had an issue here this morning, looking for IT guy, and our IT guy, we find out is down in Levita, and I went,
Okay.
I need to follow up on that, that's all it is. Not challenging you,
No.
just,
And
only way I know is to ask.
And, you know, I mean, it didn't have to happen, but I think
Right.
when that bad day comes, those
Yeah.
networks and that coordination, it's, you know, if we don't serve each other in the South region and make those connections, we're gonna be worse off for it. I personally met Carl Beeman for the first time down there.
Yeah.
And, you know, and saw that piece and met the, Kim Gonzalez from Public Health for, Morphino in Los Angeles County, and, you know.
Well, I strongly believe there's a reason there's 2 lanes on that highway, and any other highway to the counties that are around us. We are gonna need each other at some point. I don't have an issue with mutual aid. No problem. It just bit us because we had our own
Right.
event. So, if it wasn't for that, life would have been
reasonably normal, so, again. But thank you for, number one, the work you do here. Thank you for being willing to go down there, because that will pay benefits to us at some point, and we gotta believe in that.
I believe it will. I believe we have some great contacts and,
Yeah. Well, thank you. Anything else, gentlemen? I know we kind of belabored your time, I'm sorry about that.
No, we don't need to beat a dead horse, but, you know, there's a lot of lessons learned. And I think maybe before we even talk to CES about this, maybe we need to, because I believe we're responsible for our response in emergency up here. I turn it around. What if we had the fire in the valley? Who's going to coordinate what? Who are we going to call in Warfield County? Big animal guy down there. All that kind of stuff needs to be understood. And so, so we kind of got to get our own, I think, a game plan together, what we see we need, and then we can get together and get lessons learned and coordinate this. Because the point you made with the hospital is a good one. They have the authority to execute. Our big animal guy up there, extension agent, or somebody else that we could designate, could be the janitor, whoever makes that call. We've invested the authority for that response, because we're not on the ground, the three of us. And so we just need to set up the process and the agencies that are going to be calling people to evacuate or whatever.
Well,
so we need to get together with.
We need to read that AOP again, because a lot of that's in EOP.
EOP. The AOP is on the fire side. That says what you're gonna pay for.
Yeah.
And you pay for that.
So we do have an operating plan. It's not like we don't.
Yeah.
So we need
It was just adopted last November. It was
right.
the first update since 2000.
Anyway, I don't know whether that designates who's the little animal guy and who's the big animal guy and who's the, you know, what the hospital guy is. You know, all that we need to make sure we connect.
And I think if you can do those private agents, those private arrangements, and keep the county out of that land, that liability lane,
well, that's what
all
you
the
said
better, because you can.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? If you decided tomorrow, you know what, I'm moving to Hawaii. So much of what you do is so foreign to me, and I suspect many others. Do you have a procedural manual on how to handle things? Is Meredith up to speed? I mean, if you decided, you know what, I'm out of here, and you got on a jet plane, how am I going to know what to do with all this great stuff you do?
Well, that's what the plans are for, to try to give you some guidance. You're drinking from a fire hose, and some of that comes back. You know, I've had 7 different commissioners I've worked for in the 2.5 years I've had the job, so you know, you've watched me, Jay. I've gotten pulled this way and yanked that way.
You're unbelievable.
So,
but my concern is you get pulled all the way away.
Yeah.
Who can someone step into your shoes?
You know, Meredith is certainly the best
type of job you can do.
Meredith is certainly the best prepared for that right now. I think every county needs a Meredith, and I'm the only one that has one, unless you're in Pueblo County and you've got the Cadillac of the EOCs. I think they all need a Meredith. I think Meredith, you know, it's hard to justify that, and I've said it before, but I think in Vernon's position and emergency management, those are big gaps on staffing when you look. I think
those are good questions.
those are good budget questions.
We need to get in a meeting to spend a lot of time doing that.
But we need that staffing, we need that depth. We need it in both our departments, probably, in my opinion, more so than anywhere else in the county right now.
I don't disagree with that at all. So as things settle down, let's think about those things for the future.
It's almost budget time, it's on the to-do list.
Okay, anything else from your side?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for.
Yeah, we can talk offline.
Did they appreciate you down there or not?
I think they appreciated me, all but maybe one person I got sideways with, so. Thanks.
All right, kiddo, thank you, appreciate it. One more staff report, IT. Hello, sir.
Good morning, all.
So you got up early this morning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You must have been up real early. You were down there for a couple hours, and you're here now.
Right. So, pardon my hair, it was windy.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Well, let's sort things out a little bit if we may. One, let's talk about IT for the county, and then if we need to, we can move on to
IT and your role in the Adobe fire and or Spring Fire.
Okay.
Well, where are we at with IT? I know we got a new phone system, down payment paid.
We have a new phone system coming in. The tech has been ordered. We're going to be installing it within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Nice.
We'll be working through the weekend. There'll be a training scenario where we'll be training everybody on the new phones on a Friday, installing the system, making certain it works over the weekend, and then keeping a tech around for at least 1 or 2 days on Monday and Tuesday. So we'll be
What is
installing
the
that
system,
soon.
just out of curiosity?
I don't have my paperwork. It's here, sorry.
It's not like Harris Corporation or something.
No. It's a high-end phone system. Did I? I'll email you all.
It's okay. I was just curious.
I brought it in last time when I presented it, but I will bring it.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember the name.
It's a standalone system. It'll be installed here. It's not going to be a cloud-based system. That's going to be elsewhere. In regards to the cloud-based system, or excuse me, the internet-based systems, I know that we've been having a lot of trouble with the high-speed internet. We are exploring that option to get fiber in here. It's cost prohibitive right now. As soon as we find out how much money we're going to be saving with the phone system, then we'll start looking at shifting over from our existing high-speed radio to high-speed fiber instead.
What do you think that cost looks like right now?
The quote that I received from CenturyLink for high-speed fiber was $500 installation with a $970 a month charge for 100 megabytes per second.
To the court?
County building, yes. It's more stable than the DSL and the radio internet that we're using right now. When they cut through the phone lines in Pueblo Penrose on accident, and half the county lost its telephone, including our ACS lines, our dedicated lines here. The building had to basically shut down a lot of its services because fortunately it was a Friday afternoon, wasn't it? The courts still had their phones because they are all on a fiber line. So I'm hoping that will be more stable and more secure for us in the long run. But like I said, cost prohibitive. I'm waiting until we get our phone system installed so that we can find out exactly how much we'll be saving in that regard.
Good. Mr. Chuck is done.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing? You all right?
It's drinking from a fire hose. It's
pretty wild.
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
Again,
Keeping everything updated, working hard.
You know, the circumstances, I keep coming back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck's gone for 3 or 4 days, the Adobe fire breaks out.
Right. Yep.
And I saw you in action down there. You did a great job. You were very available, and I always appreciate it. And I always figure the true way to measure someone's worth is see how they're functioning when we're in a state of crisis and everybody else is running around screaming and yelling.
Absolutely.
You were an anchor point. You did a great
you
job.
really were. I'll echo that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Um,
I learned a lot from that, and I'll be taking that into our CES meetings and figuring out how to streamline that a little bit.
yeah. People say, well, we need a map about this. Vern's already up there right now. So, yeah, it was great. It was good.
Databases and evacuation zones and even the names and numbers and addresses of all the people that needed to be evacuated. That was quite an adventure.
Yeah. So, certainly my compliments to you on behalf of all of us. I think I know Bill was there too and saw that some. So,
I think since the fire broke out on Monday afternoon, I've put in, not including time as a county employee, but I put in 10 hours of overtime since that day. We're just working on that. So it's been an adventure.
Yeah. So good. Anything else, gentlemen? Other questions, IT issues, problems, concerns? I guess I'm the point of contact for IT. I don't worry about it too much because I know we got Big Burn on the job, man.
Well, thank you very much.
And his cousin.
Backhanded compliment, the truth.
We did budget originally.
Yes, sir.
For an assistant if that is necessary.
Okay.
If you feel that you need that, please come see us, okay? I mean, I do not expect you here at midnight every night trying to fix stuff. If a helper I don't mean, help, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
An assistant could help you with this. That is never a plan
Okay.
to make you the county slave.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you, I
I
appreciate
mean
that.
that sincerely.
I think I will definitely be revisiting that when we get into budgets.
You get into that point, we'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And then probably just one other thing I would throw out, maybe a little out of context, and that's the performance review. I think you were due, your start date was in January,
January 2nd.
so, unless either one of you gentlemen would like to do that, would you like to take on the performance evaluation of Mr. Roth? I will defer.
I'd be happy to do it, or however you feel comfortable.
Do it, I'll review it.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll get
So
together
you guys
in a
can-
couple
we
of
need
days
to-
as soon as things calm down.
All right.
Look, emergencies take precedent over everything, so once we know that the beast to the east is calmed down, we're good to go. I'll
Thank
be
you,
happy to
appreciate it,
take that.
okay, good. All right, anything else, sir, from your end?
I believe that's it.
Good.
Thanks for your understanding.
Oh, you bet. Hope you,
Thanks.
took my question as it was intended.
Oh, absolutely,
Okay,
that's
good.
your purview, absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'll see you when the meeting's over.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, get back on task here with moving on with the agenda, gentlemen, any unfinished business that they're not aware of?
I am not aware of it.
I do not have any. We'll move on to the new business. Weed board appointments, I think we have a list. Miss Brenda provided that. And obviously, we're gonna have a little bit of, well, no, we may not. So if you have that list,
Sorry.
that's okay, take your time. It was an email. You want me to back up and give you that date, sir? Well, no, I had it on
It
the
was in
board
the board
packet.
packet.
Yeah, it was in the board
Was
packet.
it below you there, Jay?
I have one packet up that I didn't. Oh, yes, you did. I'm sorry, I do
Okay.
have it, and I did look at it. I
Okay.
apologize.
So currently, the members of the weed board, Clint Smith, Dan Garrison, Bill Donnelly, Dick Downey, Jeff Uthier, Roger Gregg, Sharon Berry, Roger Squire, Brenda Gady, Kate Spinelli, and Lene Morrow. So those would be the members that we would appoint. Some of those are termed out. Their term would expire in January of 19, so we're a little behind the 8 ball, but we held off on that, waiting for a new extension director. You can see the extension position is not on that list, and that was by design and by request of CSU. So I would move that we approve the submitted names for the weed advisory board.
I'll second it, and we can discuss.
Been moved and seconded to approve the proposed names for the weed advisory board. Discussion.
So these are one-year terms effective during January, is that right? For all?
Sure, I can answer that without looking.
It is 1 year terms. It says.
They are,
It is,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's, so whether they're at, they don't have dates on all of them. So
Right.
we're assuming that we were appointing them to fulfill the rest of this year, is that right?
That's correct.
And we'll do it again.
2 members shall be at large, 2 members shall be from each of the individual areas. Wetmore, Westcliff, Silvercliff, San Isabel, unincorporated parts of the county. Each member will serve for 1 year. Members are eligible to continue service by expressing their desire to do so.
So who's the Silvercliff dude?
Roger Squire.
Roger's not
He
gonna-
does both road and bridge, and
Bill Donnelly's also down
yeah, he's Wetmore.
Okay.
So,
And Westcliff is,
Well, Lene Laurel lives in West Cliff.
And there was a minimum of, is there more than what it's called for?
Minimum of 7, yes.
That's the current.
I meet with this bunch. I meet with this board. I say bunch, most of them are pretty good friends of mine, so I shouldn't say that. But it doesn't mean that any of us couldn't. I just sat in on those meetings as well.
You were the
Help try to get that back up and running.
Weren't you the point of contact then?
Yep. Yep.
All right, I like it.
Further discussion, since we're into new business, comments from the public?
This is just for this year.
Yeah,
That's
what
correct.
I
We
did.
will revisit this again in January. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Hooray.
Do you need that list? Kelly, do you want me to email you this?
It's in the board packet, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, good. Because I ran through those names pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Next item on new business, special events permit from the Chamber of Commerce.
Kelly's got that.
Okay, so this is for the cowboy gathering at a Painted View Ranch. It is August 18th and 19th, and they've got all their paperwork in order. So it just needs your approval.
Okay, is there liquor license involved or no?
That's what this is.
Oh, okay.
A special events
It's
permit.
a special events permit
Yeah.
for the,
Yeah.
You're satisfied everything was insurance, everything's done?
Yeah, I don't check, insurance. The liquor part of it has nothing to do with that. I think that goes along with, between the chamber and,
so this is a Chamber of Commerce event, they're just happen to be having it at a Painted View Ranch, correct? Do I
no, it's
understand that
not a
right?
Chamber of Commerce event. It's Donna Hood's event. The chamber is just doing the liquor part of it as a
okay.
fundraiser.
Okay, got it.
Oh, they would have the insurance.
They do
then.
several
Yeah,
of
they'd
those
have
for
to.
different
Okay.
events, yeah.
Got it. So this isn't for that whole event, this is a
No.
liquor license for the chamber.
Right.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I'll move that we approve a special events permit for the Chamber of Commerce Cowboy Gathering on August 18th and 19th.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the special events permit. Further discussion? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. I'm assuming they're looking for a signature.
Yeah, it's down,
Is it?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item of business is approval of the Custer County Fair Board bylaws.
I move we accept them, they look pretty good, I got a couple of questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll second the motion. It's moved and seconded to approve or adopt the Custer County Fair Board bylaws. Discussion.
Just a quick one, and it
Okay.
should have been asked before, and the lead change that they had was it's for all boards and, or clubs. And they don't specify, are they just the 4-H clubs? Take a look at that.
I'm not quite following what you're saying.
Right here it says,
Article-
benefit of
Article
youth
2.
clubs, whatever they are,
Right.
and the residents.
Right.
So what are we bounded by in the bylaw?
They
Just the
changed that
4-H?
from 4-H to youth clubs a couple of years ago, and that to include 4-H, FFA.
anything that comes along?
Well, I don't know about that necessarily, there
That's
could
my only
be.
question, is what, so they're reaching out, car groups or whatever, I'm just wondering what clubs they're talking about. I liked all the other changes, looked reasonable, I don't know if there's other discussions.
Yeah, it's a good,
Looked pretty good.
point. Maybe it should say for the benefit of the agricultural youth clubs.
And then the residents.
Because a youth club could be the archery, or not archery, because that's 4-H, could be Boy Scouts.
Yeah, could be,
Fair Board doesn't have any purview over the Boy Scouts, so
Right.
I get your point.
It's just trying to bound it.
We think, Mr. Prince, does,
You know, I personally.
I don't care
like
if it
to-
involves everybody, it's just,
Yeah, that's
what,
what I was
what do
thinking.
they want, but do they want to do that?
Yeah, my thought would be youth clubs is all encompassing, they can decide what's appropriate, what's not. I'm okay with it.
yeah, when I read it, I thought, well, I think the intent was the youth club that would be
I
involved
think
with
it's
the
all
fair.
4-H stuff, like a
think
quilting
that's-
club.
That's what our fair board's for.
It's a
But,
fair board.
I can certainly, mention that to them, they may choose
See
to
if they
clean
got,
that language up a
and
little.
they could just say all clubs in the county or whatever.
I like the youth club.
Okay.
Now,
All youth clubs, I mean.
when you're done with that, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
I hate to even bring this up, but I got to.
Okay.
And the residents of Custer
Yes.
County.
Yep.
I got a real issue here.
Okay.
To me,
That's why I'm
if someone has a strong tie to Custer County, they own a business here, they may live outside the county, but, they're involved in Custer County activities, where do we draw the line on what is a resident? We've had this question multiple times. Maybe it's time to say if you pay any taxes in the county other than sales tax type of thing, if you pay any ad valorem or other taxes in the county, for our purposes, you're considered a resident. I don't know how to do this because there are a lot of people that own businesses that don't live in the county, and I hate for them to be excluded because they are as much a member of our community as anybody else. So the term resident is something, and I'm not suggesting we tackle that question today, but I think we ought to think about that in the future on who is considered a resident.
Do you know what they meant? Were they worried
No,
about
not
somebody
specifically.
coming
I was
from Fort
involved
Collins?
in some of the language of this, not this particular one. I think their intent here is that they are not responsible for providing services for people who live outside of our county. And part of that's by design because of their involvement with extension. The extension is if you're going to participate in our county fair through extension/4-H, you have to live in our county.
Absolutely.
That was part of this. Should Custer County's Fair Board be responsible for people outside of the county? I think that was part of their conversation. That they believe that they should be operating for the benefit of the people that live in our county, not for the people that live in Orfano County, Costilla County, Pueblo County.
And I would have absolutely zero opposition to that. However, what if grandma's raising the kids and the kids want to go, but the family really lives somewhere else? You know what I'm
Been
saying?
through that specifically. Grandma was, but she didn't raise them full time. They came up here during the summer and lived with grandma, and now they felt like they had a right to participate in that county fair. Thank God they weren't FFA, it was 4-H at the time, and so that jumped onto the extension's hot plate, and it was ugly for a while.
That was the issue I'm talking about, and these kind of the questions that we're going to have to grapple with at some point or another. To be, first of all, our taxes should not be spent for this type of recreation outside of our county. I absolutely agree with that. But I think it's important to understand who is and who is not a resident in many areas. This question's come up many times before.
Well, I kind of think,
we need to work on it sooner or later.
I agree.
yeah, you don't, what does benefit the clubs, that's understandable. What's the benefit of the residents? So So it's okay to come from out of town and attend a county fair and spend your money, that's good. What we're trying not to do is, have a group from Denver come down and have a bunch of kids doing something in the fair that aren't residents of the county, whatever.
That's exactly
That's the way I
correct.
kinda look at it.
That is therein lies.
So I don't mind, I can see somebody with a business in town, they're, from my point of view, participating in the fair for the benefit of the county.
I don't know. but
Well, and
I'm just
typically-
figuring out is what we need to
Right.
address it.
I think typically, when we're really talking about residents here, we're talking about, I'll say kids, because it's kind of a kid fair, although adults can participate in the fair and show stuff, display stuff, exhibit stuff. That those should be from our county, because it is a county fair. It's
Right.
not a tri-county,
Yeah, we're
it's
not
not an
gonna
area,
be
it's
there
not a
to
regional fair, it's a
promote
county
somebody
fair.
else's quilting club. from
Right,
Pueblo.
so, but it comes down to it. I'll use you for an example. So Mrs. Prince wants to exhibit and compete in a quilting thing at the county fair. Should she be allowed to do that? I think generally they would say no, because she's not a resident of Custer County, unless she was. I happen to know that she happens to live in Texas, so that's why I used that. Might not have been appropriate, but so that was their thinking, that if you are going to, and when I say participate, I don't mean come and buy hot dogs. I mean you are a registered exhibitor at the fair. You should live in this county. Now they're going to come back to it and say, what is a resident?
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we can define
to
that,
be
we've had that issue
consistent-
in a lot of places.
Exactly, and to be consistent, and that's what I'm most concerned about.
Right.
I don't want anybody ever to come and say, well, you let Mrs.
Right.
X do
Right.
something, but
And that's
Mrs. Y
happening.
can't, or whatever. If we have an overall policy and we follow it consistently, I almost don't even care what the policy is,
Right.
as long as it's consistent.
What I would really like to see in all of these bylaws that speak to this language of resident is say, resident per
Right.
the Board of County Commissioners resolution number such and such.
That is our
But
policy.
until we take that lead,
That's where I'm going.
everybody's going to
You have,
struggle.
you have an appendix
Because
of
we have this
definitions
question
for the
with
county.
Tourism board, I mean,
Yes.
this comes up often.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
This needs
every
to get
board,
addressed.
and I'm with you, the sooner that happens, I think it's gonna be better, because we're gonna we'll be reactive, and then we're gonna be in trouble because it'll be
Then
discrimination.
we're gonna come up with a different definition for each group.
So,
Okay, so other than that, are there any other issues with
Well,
this
I thought it was
bylaw?
great
It's not
other than
really an
that.
issue, even with residents in there, we just gotta deal with
I don't
residents
have a
later.
problem with residents, I know what we mean by residents.
Right.
I mean, what if you all live here 6 months out of the year and you live somewhere else 6 months out of the year? Does that qualify? I don't know, we gotta think about those things.
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, and of course, Article 4, then any Custer County resident interested in participating in promoting the youth clubs of Custer County shall be considered eligible to be a member.
Exactly.
Again, and you guys kind of know where I'm coming from that, what's a resident. So, I certainly can share our discussion with the Fair Board, at least the president of the Fair Board, but other than
Yeah,
that,
that
I
really
didn't
doesn't
see
even
a
affect
lot of
that either. It's just,
No,
it's
and-
okay the way it's written.
except
They
for
can, when they're picking somebody, they got a
to
definition in their
reference where they
mind.
would go for
There
the
may be
definition.
times when it's appropriate for them to say, we're going to deviate from the rule of what is a resident for the following,
That's okay,
whatever.
they can have
As
an
long as
exception
we
as long as
agree to
everybody
that.
approves it.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this out because it's in here too, and I'm sure you gentlemen are aware of this, that there is a clear line between the Custer County Fair and the Saddle Club, Wet Mountain Valley Saddle Club. Those are two different entities. They get interspersed and intermixed all the time, and so we just need
Yeah, we
to.
get in trouble
be
spending
aware
money
of
on our
that,
own
so.
thing.
No, they're definitely.
Further discussion, gentlemen? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the Custer County Fair Board bylaws as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'm sorry, opposed,
No,
nay,
no, no.
motion carries.
Yeah, no, I was
She has
just
a
gonna
question.
ask,
Got ahead
once
of
these
myself.
are approved, and they are now approved, will they please go up on the website?
They will go back to the fair board first.
You gotta get the
Because
red
these are
lines
red
out of
lines.
it.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay, because I know someone who has been interested in participating on the fair board and can't get a set of these
Okay.
from
Should-
them.
Should be able to
Yeah, more.
by requesting one
I
from
agree,
the.
but that's not what has
And
happened.
they may have said, I don't know, I'm not putting words in their mouth, I don't know anything about this, but I could imagine they might have said, we're in the process of getting reviewed, but if that's not the case, yeah, I'll follow up on that if that continues to be an issue, because they should be available anytime.
All bylaws should be available to all
Exactly.
citizens at any time.
Exactly.
Not just make as a blanket statement.
Can we end early today?
I don't know.
They're fine,
We
aren't
won't be able to
Anybody
if I
else has
can't
a
find the
comment?
agenda for crying out loud. It just
Here,
got
you can
away
look.
from me. Yeah, I got one right here, but I had some notes on mine, so I wanna make sure. I think we're good. Other public comment? Miss Arley, how are you? Do you have any words of wisdom for the county commissioners?
I just hope you keep straight.
Keep them straight. Well, that's a full-time job, that's for sure. We will wait and look if we need to go into executive session, sir, after you do some more research.
Right.
By consent, gentlemen, any other business to come before the meeting at this time?
I do not, sir.
No.
Mr. Canada? Therefore, the meeting is adjourned. Let the record show 11:13. Just in time for lunch. It's the only reason I'm friends with Miss Arla. She's a pretty good lunch buddy.